It's Toby from Heavyweight MMA here today with a 6'6" heavyweight beast straight out of SBG, Cork Ireland, a rising star of MMA, the Hulk, Ryan Spillane. Thanks for coming on, man.
Pleasure to be here.
Man, actually, just before I kick off, just looking at you the first time I've seen you face-to-face on a podcast, you look like a different man than you did back in your old videos and everything, man. What's been happening? You've dropped a few kgs and beasted up a bit, right?
Yeah, the running joke going around the gym right now is that I turned from Lou Ferrigno Hulk, so the Hulk that's literally a man painted green, into the actual CGI Hulk that Mark Ruffalo plays. So that's kind of the running joke in the gym.
So as long as we don't get you angry, we're going to be all right, right?
Yeah. I'm nice now. I'm in Bruce Banner mode now, so I'm the nice guy now. It's just in the cage and I'm the Hulk.
That's it. So I'll see you explode. Man, so first of all, for people like myself, tell me about the fight scene in Cork or Greater Ireland and how you started training.
So the fight scene in Ireland right now is kind of all over the place just with COVID and stuff. We have a huge fight scene. We obviously have Conor McGregor. We've had a few UFC fighters currently kind of building up right now. We had Rhys McKee recently in the UFC. There's a few other guys who are kind of pushing their way up right now. Right now it's kind of quiet. I would say I'm kind of pushing it in Cork right now. I have myself and there's another fighter called Pally Han. He is fighting in 2-3 weeks now on a show over in America called Cavanagh Global. So that's a huge American show. He's making his pro debut there, and I'm making my pro debut next week. So we're kind of the big ones in Cork. Then obviously in Dublin, you have SBG Ireland. They're a huge gym. They have multiple fighters. You have Kiefer Crosby, James Gallagher, like massive fighters. So I think MMA in Ireland is massive. It's always been big, even before the Conor era. It was always big then. For me, I was playing rugby at a fairly high level, and in between rugby, where you have your off season, I wanted to keep training. I wanted to do something. So I found it was an MMA gym literally 5 minutes down the road from me. We were called K2C back then, not SBG. And I just started, and I fell in love in the first class. The first class was like double legs. So from rugby background, double legs was kind of like my bread and butter. And after that, then I fell in love with the sport then.
Yeah. So actually, that's a funny thing. Yeah. You walk into these gyms and you see people. For me, it was walking into a stand-up gym and just seeing people smashing Thai pads, man. It's such an attractive thing for you, right? You walk in, you see people smashing things. You saw people where you're learning to take down straight away, instant good at double leg because you're a rugby player. And you know, it's hard to stop after that happens, eh?
Yeah, no, I remember coming to gym and I remember the Muay Thai was over in the corner. And then on the other side, then there was jiu-jitsu. So they were in their full gis. And I was like, why they're all around in pajamas? Like, it's a bit weird. Like,
that's it. Hey, and back to the Conor factor you mentioned a minute ago. Did his success build up? You already had probably a good stand-up scene, a good MMA scene. After he started being successful, it probably built it a lot in your country, right?
So with Conor reaching the UFC and getting so massive, what it opened up there was a pathway. So there became, like, we all knew, like, obviously before Conor, there was like the likes of Tommy Egan and stuff who got to the UFC but didn't go far. But when Conor started to like press through, for us, that we knew then there was a path to the UFC. Conor got there. That means we can all get there. You know, if we all work hard, there was that like set path. And then when you're the likes of James Gallagher and all them, then reach other huge shows, and there's like countless Irish fighters now on massive shows. So like now there's all those pathways. So it just became more attainable for us to see ourselves in the future in a show like that because he'd got there.
How's his vision and belief from the start? It's crazy that movie of his. What was the movie he made? I was discussing it with another Irish mate of mine actually, and he was saying how the guy started filming himself talking about his potential to reach the heights that he has well before there was any real reason for him to be doing that. And it's just amazing that he had that vision and now he's achieved it, pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, that was, I think it was like a clip, I think it was like a pre-fight or something like that, and he's there and he's like baldy head and he's all the pimples and all that. And he's like, I'll be in the UFC. And then they always use that clip then, like,
yeah,
for
that's
any
the
of
one.
the UFC fights and all that.
That's the one. So, man, you're training at the famous SBG Straight Blast Gym, or that's what it is now. Like you mentioned, it's changed. Who's your main coach?
My main coach would be OgGriffin in SBG Cork, and then I do like kind of 2 weeks, 3 week period then up in Dublin with John Cavanagh. You have Dave Roach up there, Reg Byrne, massive coach up there, but I'd be based more in Cork then. It's my home. I'm a Cork boy, so I kind of do all my main camps there. So I've Liam OgGriffin there, and I have my strength and conditioning, Boo Health and Fitness. So most of my training happens down there, and then when I need spars, then I go up there, and then I'm lucky enough to spar with the likes of Johnny Walker, Carl Moore, Will Flory, like massive names in the MMA scene.
That's awesome, man. Hey, what's the differences between the coaching of your Cork gym and then Cavanagh's gym? Out of interest, what are the sort of strengths and that about the two different places?
They're very similar. Like, so the way John and Liam coaches, they're like, they both kind of came from the same background. So Liam and John both kind of did karate. Obviously, John now is a black belt in jiu-jitsu and a mastermind. Liam's kind of working his way up there and all that. Like, he's still not. He's a purple belt right now. In my head, he's definitely like a brown. Like on like the skill side things, he can break down techniques very, very well. It's also when I have the two of them in my corner, so I don't have Liam and John because I have both mine. So Liam, who knows me more, and then John, who's the better MMA coach. So the two of them together then are just amazing when I have two of them in my corner.
That's awesome, man. He seems like a great, like you said, great mastermind. A lot of the things I've seen on him. Seems like a good guy too, right?
Oh, he's a legend. Stuff he does for me now takes care of me. I'm pretty much his son at this stage.
That's awesome, man. Hey, talking about the gym, man, there's always some like funny stories, etc. from the gyms. You got anything that comes to mind? There's always like weird people walking off the streets or anything crazy you can think of, even though you've just woken up.
we could write an absolute book on the amount of people that come into the gym and done weird things. Like we've always like sat in class afterwards and like there like a book needs to be written, like, because like there's so many things. Like off the top of my head, like I had a guy one time come into a Muay Thai class, and Joey, like the thing with Muay Thai, the shorts are always like really, really tucked up.
Yeah.
He came in just wearing underpants, and he did the whole class in underpants. And like, I don't know if he thought the underpants were Muay Thai shorts or like if they were like Balotudo or something like that. Like, but he was literally training in jocks, like that. And like, there was another person who came into the gym and they literally just walked with a kettlebell and just smashed it off someone's head because they never saw someone sitting down stretching. Like, Jesus. I could go on for at least 2 hours here going on, but all the people that we've had in our gym, there's just been characters. And some of the stuff you wouldn't even believe it's real, like, you know.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it before, man. It's quite funny. And then you get these strange legends of martial arts that come in and start talking about their own style, some ancient Chinese style or whatever, and want to challenge people and stuff like that. It can be funny.
We've had loads of people coming out of the street and been like doing consultations. So like before you join the gym, you have to do a consultation. I would do them, or we have a girl, Ashley, would do them. And like the stories we have in those consultations alone, like that people don't even make it to the gym, you know. Like one guy told me that he was a street fighter and he'd take me no bother. And I was just kind of there, like, and I was like, "You're about 4 foot, like, you know, go away from me." Mental stuff.
Man, so in your start, did you start off in any particular discipline? I heard you mention that you did some kickboxing before and some BJJ wrestling, etc. What was the key when you started? Did you go straight into MMA, or were you doing like a variety of particular art firstly?
So when I started, I was around 15, 16, so I couldn't fight MMA really. There was no like kind of pathway the way there is with IMAF now, where they have the cadets and they have the juniors and all that. There was none of that there. So I couldn't actually fight MMA. And obviously I was a huge fucker, so I couldn't really do that much. So it was kickboxing that I kind of started in. So it was IKF kickboxing, so it's full contact kickboxing. So kind of similar to Muay Thai and that kind of style where you have low kicks. Rules was different. Like I can grab a kick and I can just hold it. There's not really much clinch work. It's more kind of technical striking, but still, like, you're in a fight. It's not like kickboxing where it's points, where you're just shooting like karate or taekwondo, where you're just hitting points. It's hard enough. So I fought there. I had about 20 kickboxing fights there at stage, and then kind of jiu-jitsu tournaments, kind of did all those. And then when I turned 18, then it was kind of MMA. Then I tried out a fight before that and all that, and I just never really worked out. It was only about 6-7 years ago I had my first MMA fight, and then since then it's just been literally fights all the time. Like, I've kind of been really active in my career where I've literally, the turnaround hasn't been that long. I think the biggest turnaround I had now is what I have right now, where I haven't fought in over a year, but that's due to COVID and all this shit and all that. This is the longest layoff I've had before a fight.
Cool, man. Hey, what would you consider yourself a specialist in any particular area, or are you just trying to work everything at once and just being a well-rounded sort of MMA fighter?
I had to fill this out for a sheet the other day, and it was like, describe your style. It was grappler, striker, all that. I would consider myself a mixed martial artist because I have fights where I finish on the floor. I have fights where I finish standing. You know, I'm very good everywhere. Wrestling has been my weakest point for the last like 2 years, 3 years, and wrestling is but what I've been worked on for the last while. We have a little kid in our gym. He's 17. We call him Abdullah Magomedov, and he's just a big nerd when it comes to wrestling. Like watches videos all the time. He's been literally doing wrestling with us for the last 2 years, like teaching us all like the little kind of critiques and like Russian wrestling and all that. Like, so yeah, I would consider myself mixed martial artist. I've kind of done everything. So definitely, I can finish the fight anywhere is the main thing for me.
That's good, man. Kind of new age guys coming up seem to be more that style, right? That you're combining it all together rather than just being a specialist, but kind of works both ways there. Hey, I was reading that you just turned pro, but you haven't quite kicked off yet, and you were supposed to be in Bellator, but now it says you've been released. But you're going to fight in Holland. A bit confusing. What's happening, man? What's happening? You
so I signed for Bellator. It was officially released during lockdown and had my 4-fight contract and all that. And just because of COVID, a lot of the contracts have ran up, and they've just, because they're not doing shows in Europe, they don't see the point in having European fighters. So they've released loads of us. They released like lads like Karl Moore and the huge guys. And I was kind of expecting my name to be released as well. Like, and I officially found out about 3 weeks ago that I've been released. It didn't really make that much difference to me. At that point, I had a fight. I was scheduled to fight in Birmingham, England on a show called Battle Arena. Unfortunately, my opponent pulled out due to COVID. So the last week I've been looking for a fight, and there's been nothing, like, because it's very hard to find someone to fight on a pro debut on 2 weeks' notice. Like, especially my background in MMA, like I have a very I've plenty of accolades. I have worlds, I have Europeans, I've loads of gold medals and all that, and also I have about 20 MMA fights, which is scary enough for guys to fight at amateur, never mind pro. And lucky enough, I found an opponent, Slim Trubetsky. He is a dude from France, the May Factory wrestler. I'm fighting him now on a show called Levels Fight League. It's over in Amsterdam, Holland. So a bit better than Birmingham, but a bit more of a trip. The show looks very well run as well. Looks like a cool enough show behind closed doors. So looking forward to that fight now.
That's awesome, man. Best of luck with it. It's good that you're just chasing, trying to get something, and it's come up, man. Excellent. And get to go spend a bit of time in Amsterdam as well. Might be fun.
Yeah, it'll be my second time there, so I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Hey, what's your plan? Like, in your head, do you set up your idea, like you got a dream, I want to be here, or have a goal to hit here, or is it just taking one at a time?
My long-term goal for MMA is to create a legacy. So normally the UFC heavyweight champion is known as the baddest man on the planet. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to be known as. I want to have a legacy when I finish MMA, that everyone knows who I am and what I've done during the career. I want to have a very good career and have that title, whether it be if I win a UFC title, whether it be a Bellator title, whether it be PFL, whether it be all of them. I want to be known as the baddest man on the planet. That's what I want long term. Short term, just get one fight out of the way, and then 2 fights, then 3 fights, then 4. Just get the fights then.
So I'm gonna jump straight ahead, man, because I had it written down a bit late. I'm gonna do it anyway. So tomorrow you get a call from your coach. He says you're fighting Francis Ngannou for the heavyweight title. What's your game plan, man? You got 8 weeks to prepare. What's your game plan against a beast like that?
I think Francis is an easy fight. Francis is easier compared to, let's say, lads like Stipe, because all he has is that one tool. His tool is he knocks you out. That's it. So you just take him away from that. So you put him against the fence, you grind him out, you make him tired, and then you can start working. It was the exact same way Stipe fought him in the first fight. And I think when Stipe fought him in the second fight and he took him down and he got back up, it just shocked Stipe, because Stipe thought, oh, he has no wrestling. And then he worked on his wrestling. You know, he's obviously getting better at stuff, but you have to be able to change your game plan as the fight goes on. You know, so if you expect your opponent to be one thing and then they change that can't affect you. You have to be able to if we change the game plan in the goal, like, you know. So definitely you have to start grinding him out, make it not like a slog, because that's where he strikes better, is where it's literally like just start swinging and he's very good at catching you in those swings. So you can't like make that fight that kind of fight. You have to put him against the cage and just limit all of his tools. His tools is a really, really powerful punch, and he puts people to sleep. So limit that. Get very close to him, put him against the fence, take him down, grind him out. I believe I could submit him. You know, no one's really worked his jits game or anything. Like, I pride myself on my submission game. So there, catch a little heel hook or an arm bar or choke. That's where you finish that man.
Awesome, man. Sounds like you're giving it some serious thought, man. You're halfway there already.
You always plan to fight the top guy in your division. So when I was with Bellator, I was always fighting Ryan Bader in my head. He was the top guy, so I was always fighting him. If you're fighting the top guy, it has to be Ngannou. He's the baddest man on the planet right now.
Fair call, man. That's a mighty goal to get there. Good luck with that, man. Hey, looking at your record, the amateur record, like you said, you've had quite a lot of fights. There's a marked difference, obviously, in the first half of your amateur career versus the second half. So you kicked along, you're having a pretty rough time in the early days of your fighting, and then suddenly around 2018, you just started kicking ass. Only I think one loss since then, kicking ass. What happened? What made that change?
So the whole time I was training, I was always better than everyone. I was always very skillful, because when I started training, I was training with little guys, so I couldn't use my strength at all. It was all technique. So I learned technique very fast because I had to. I didn't want to crush the little guys. I didn't want to be that guy who just comes in and uses all of his strength and doesn't learn his technique. So I was learning my techniques as I went on. So I was very technical. And every guy that I fought in my first half of my career wasn't better than me. I failed. I switched off in the fights. It was a mental switch that I switched off, and I let them win. And I started working with a sports psychologist. His name's Dave Mullins, and it started making more sense. I was like, I'm not losing these fights for any reason other than I'm switching off, and then when I started fighting in 2018, then I switched on the fights. It was a postural thing. Liam noticed it as I walked into jiu-jitsu tournaments. I was very up and I was very confident. You could see like the aura around me. I was very confident. But then when I stepped into MMA fights, like weeks before that, I was a different person. I was kind of sludged, and he knew I didn't want to be there. And then he watched me walk into the Europeans and the Worlds, and he was like, it was a complete different Ryan. You could see the confidence kind of come out of me. I kind of slipped back then into little bad habits then in 2019 when I lost the Worlds, but then refixed those then when I fought in the Oceanic. Then it was just kind of, it's always something you need to keep in check. You can't like always say, oh, I kind of got into a lull after I won the Worlds and then I won the show in Dubai, and I was like, oh, I'm class, like this is I'm going to a pro and all that. And in my back of my head, then I switched back into all my bad habits, and then it was just recorrecting those now. And the last year now was keeping the habits in check and just making sure that I'll never slip back into that Ryan, because that Ryan is the one that loses fights when he shouldn't.
Man, that's a great story. And what did you kind of do? Like, what do they do for that mental prep? Like, what sort of steps did you go through?
It's just little things like understanding of controllables and uncontrollables. So an example now would be me being released by Bellator. That's something that I have completely no control of. It happened, and there's no point in me putting any negative energy into that kind of problem, because I've got nothing to do with that. So straight away when I found out about it, it was, what do I do next? What can I do? Do we have fights lined up? I had on a sign of that, I have a new manager. It's MTK. It's a huge management company, and that was one of the good news I found out off me being called Bellator. Now I'm signed MTK. So now what can MTK do for me? It could be a thing where I have 6-7 fights now, and I sign for the UFC, or maybe I have 2 or 3 fights and Bellator are back in Europe and I'm fighting at a show in Dublin. Like there was no point in me reacting to that kind of statement because I had no control of it. Little things that like when I'm at a fight, then let's say I'm in the fight and I don't know, I'm not walking out for another 20 minutes when it should have been 10. Again, I can't control that, so no point putting negative energy into that. And then little things like controlling the seed of doubt. So if you plant a seed of doubt, it grows and grows and grows into a bigger thing. So you can't have any seeds of doubt. A training journal. So looking back, so for me now, if I'm getting nervous with this fight, I just look back and look at all the training I've done to this point. Like I had spars against a Cuban professional boxer. I have spars against a UFC light heavyweight. I've loads of experience, and then all those conditioning sessions where I wanted to give up, or the sessions where I didn't want to train but I trained. I can look back at all those things that I've written down and being like, I deserve to be here more than him. And that's kind of the things that I work on a lot.
Yeah, man, it echoes something. I recently talked with Matt Lindland. Matt Lindland, he's a very famous ex-wrestler, silver medalist, and great UFC fighter as well. Now a great coach, Olympic coach. He was saying the same thing, that he gets his guys and himself in the past to concentrate on the things they can do, their training, etc. Exactly the same sort of thing in a slightly different angle. Yeah, concentrating what they can do to prepare. Right, it's good. ask you? I was going to be talking about your favorite fighter out of interest too. You mentioned a bit about Stipe, how you like him. You seem to be a bit more fond of him. What do you think? Is he one of your favorite, or you got a particular fighter you like to follow?
Stipe would be my favorite fighter. I think he's an incredible heavyweight, and what he's done for the heavyweight division is he's kind of brought it back from where it was all kind of like brawlers and strikers and all that. My favorite fighter, just for style wise, would be George St. Pierre. I think George absolutely incredible. I think the fact that he mixed up his striking into wrestling is just beautiful. And for me, that's the kind of style I'd like to have, where because I'm a predominantly striker. I want to be a striker, but then I know in the heavyweight division, everyone's a striker. They all have the knockout power. You have like the likes of Francis, Roy Nelson's, those guys who have one big swing, Derek Lewis. And so I know that I need to bring the fight to a place where I can win. And I believe I can take people down. My jits game is way better than anyone else's. I'm a very confident jits guy. I have submissions on my record that people don't even have it in pro. Like I have an omoplata finish, which is unheard of in MMA, especially heavyweights. I have one of those. I have a toe hold finish. I have a heel hook finish. I have a strangle lock finish. I have all these finishes that no one gets. And, I kind of want to beat Frank Mir's record in the heavyweight division, but I don't, because Frank is a lovely guy and I met him loads. So kind of want to beat it, but I don't want to beat it. I might ask him permission. Can I have it? Yeah. When he retires. But I'd love to have like the most submission victories in the UFC or something like that.
Awesome. I saw you fishing for a heel hook in one of your fights. Actually, one of the amateur fights, you fell down for a heel hook, but you're kind of flopping around a bit, not quite secured enough.
No, I have a heel hook finish in a show in Dubai where it was modified rules, so I was allowed to have heel hook. So I heel hooked him, but it was very funny because I finished him in the exact same position twice. So I fought this guy back in 2018 in the Worlds, and it was in half guard, and I elevated him up, swept him over, caught single leg X. Finished him the first time with a strangle lock. Then I got the exact same position in the second fight. So I was like, piece of cake. Swept him up, took him over, single legs. But now I'm in a heel hook. So I finished the heel hook then.
Jesus. Hey, I saw one of your ones. I think it was an Oceania fight where you traveled like a couple of days or something to get to Australia to have a fight that went for how long? It was like a fast one, right?
About 30 seconds, I think. Yeah. I think we traveled about 30 hours altogether, just with all the layoffs and all the stops, like, because you had to stop in. I think we stopped in Singapore for like 5 hours, and it was like London for like 6. Yeah, that wasn't fun at all. The jet when we landed in the Gold Coast on like the Tuesday or something, the jet lag was bad, and then also I'm a pale motherfucker, so me and Liam went walking around, and I was like, "Fuck, I'll take my top off now," and my whole back got scalded. Like it was peeling. It was red. So then I went to the fight. Then I couldn't we were trying to warm up for the fight, and I was lying on my back, and I was like, "This is so much pain." He was like, "I'm getting into this fight as fast as possible because I'm in a lot of pain." So 30 seconds. Then I pushed me against the fence, and I just finished it with strikes. Then.
That's funny, man, because it's true. The sun's pretty harsh in Australia. I'm from Australia as well, man. So and the Gold Coast is a nice part of the world to be in and take your shirt off and have a bit of a strut around, right? But it's not a good idea if you're pale.
Funny. No, we learned fairly fast. Like I lived in Perth for about 3 months, and I didn't burn once over there, like not once. Yeah. And then I spent a half an hour in the Gold Coast and I burned. But to be fair, if I spend a half an hour in the sun here in Ireland, I burn as well. Like I'm very bad. I should be wearing sun cream all the time, but I don't, because I'm
just wear your rash shirt, man. Rash shirt and your leggings. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Hey, so like I was saying, you're looking very different than you did in some of your old interviews, which weren't even that long ago, man. So what are you doing? Like what's made you leaner and stronger? Is it diet? Is it training? Is it both? What's going on?
So the big thing is I turned professional, so I wanted to act more like a professional. So in 2019, I took on a nutrition. He's a class. He works with the rugby teams here in Ireland and the GA teams. His name is Johnny Holland. So he works with my nutrition. So he's made a massive difference to me just by eating the right foods and fuel the body correctly. And then I took on a strength and conditioning coach then in the start of 2020. His name is Bua Health and Fitness. Bua is the Irish for health, so it's kind of a cool little title. And he has changed my strength and conditioning completely. Like I didn't really strength and condition for my whole start of my career. It was kind of like I did sessions here and there, and it was kind of met and all that. Like, and now I realize the importance of strength and conditioning. It was actually Frank Mir kind of mentioned to me, and he was kind of when he came over to Cork for a seminar. And I was chatting to him because obviously when we get seminars, it's always like, flyweights or featherweights or whatever. Like I still learn those techniques. But when Frank came, he taught heavyweight techniques. So I was like, this is class. And then we had dinner with him afterwards, and I picked his brain apart. And he was telling me how important he has found strength and conditioning for his career and his longevity. Yep. And from there, then I took on a strength and conditioning coach, and it's been a huge thing for me. Like I have a few niggly injuries that I've had my whole career, and because now my body is stronger, those injuries have just kind of been waded away.
That's awesome, man. Something that's come to my mind a little bit lately is just listening to a few guys. Have you heard of Steve Maxwell before?
I know the name.
He's a famous guy that was one of the first jiu-jitsu black belts in the States, and he was a D1 wrestler, etc. And he does a lot of work, or a lot of amazing knowledge on health and strength and conditioning and diet and healthy habits and things. He was talking about saying that the strength and conditioning, that it's good to do some of the basics, but the best thing you can do is to actually be doing that sport, because it doesn't always relate back. And as you're doing the skills, if you're doing a skill as well as training, it's better than separating it and doing that strength and conditioning. And the same with that John Donaher, he doesn't advocate too much strength and conditioning, more the actual activity itself and just training in that sport. What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, you're saying strength and conditioning is great for you, but what are your thoughts on that sort of thinking?
Definitely with like all of John Danaher's lads now. So his whole death squad, they're all jacked to death.
Yeah,
like they're like
really natural.
Danaher can't be talking about guys like not strength and conditioning, because all of his guys are fucking jacked. They're all like, if you look at Gordon Ryan when he was before strength and conditioning, and now him after strength and conditioning,
exactly.
He's a different fighter, completely different.
That's true, actually.
I would always say that like you would need the skills first. Like, so there's no point in being a jack motherfucker if you can't throw a punch or throw a kick, But if you can throw a kick or punch and then you start working on strength and conditioning, I believe it's way more of a thing then. I believe that a lot of people are focusing too much on it in the start of their career when it shouldn't be that big of a thing. I think always skill development should be first. I have 6 sessions altogether in a week for strength and conditioning. That's 3 strength, 3 conditioning.
Yep.
They're about 45 minutes to an hour long at most. I spend more time in the gym than I would do an MMA session before and after that, and then one then during the night. I'm doing 3 or 4 MMA sessions a day compared to my one strength and conditioning session. I'm always doing more skill development stuff. And then obviously you could do your runs and you can do your row 1 sessions and all that to build up your cardio there. But doing rounds is always going to be better. But you can always help that, Doing rounds all the time, your body will start getting used to that and you'll start adapting to that. While if I throw in a run every so often, or a hit workout, my body's going to start getting stronger, faster and fitter in better ways. Like I would always say skill development first, then strength and conditioning. But there is a place for strength and conditioning, especially when your body is a bit bigger. Like, so my body can't take the same damage a flyweight can. I'm carrying a lot more weight on me. So when I move, I need to make sure my muscles are be able to hold that weight, Yeah.
Understand, man. Hey, on the weight loss and the turning professional and being more professional with the diet, I was listening to you talking to someone, it wasn't that long ago, but you're talking about breakfast bagel with bacon, this sort of thing. It just sounds, I don't know much about diet, but having bacon, I didn't hear much about your vegetables and things like that. What is your diet these days? Like, I know you said you like chocolate as well. what do you focus on for diet out of interest?
Fucking love chocolate. So like breakfast will be a bagel. We call them rashers. So rashers, but no fat in them. And then like low fat red sauce. That's kind of the breakfast I would have kind of throughout it. I kind of throw in protein pancakes there and all that, kind of to mix it up and all that. Dinner then will be a lot of greens, will be a lot of the big thing for me, the big thing that Johnny taught me and that I've had from other guys kind of giving me advice is when I have chicken, it's always flavored. So I'm always putting a spice on it or if I'm having, let's say pasta or something, it's always something on it to make it taste better, because you can't eat chicken and rice all the time. Chicken and rice will get very plain very fast. So it's all about flavoring the stuff. So throwing in some veg there, some flavorings, some spices, all that kind of stuff. That's the big thing Johnny has kind of taught me, is more just having the same meals, but change them up. Let's say he gives me my full diet plan, and like, let's say he has broccoli in there. Broccoli can be changed with anything else, like it's always about mixing and matching and finding, what's better, and then kind of making sure I'm not eating the same meal every single day, because that gets boring. And I don't like the word diet. It's more about lifestyle changes. So like this doesn't stop after the fight. Obviously, I go off and I have my, I have chocolate and stuff and all that. But I'll still have my meals in between that, because they're nice meals. I love the meals Johnny has to me. It's not like I only do this for the time I have a fight and then I stop, and then I put back on the weight and all that.
We don't want to see you turn back into the Hulk again, bro. So yeah, you better keep that diet.
I'll lose everything I worked for. I hate that whole thing where guys, they train, like especially the lower weight classes, where they train for so long and they get down to a good shape and then they're gone again. It's a big thing John Cavanagh talks about. It's called goal-orientated fighters won't go far in MMA because they're always focused on that little goal, that next fight. While the last year I've had no fight, but I've been training, and my skill development in that year has been incredible. The skills I've learned from my last fight in Australia to now is like I'm a completely different fighter. Like it's crazy looking back at me doing pads or me rolling back before that fight in Australia, which is only a year. Like the work I've done now in that year is incredible, and I'm a complete different fighter. And I'm not just focused on this fight. To me now, I'm focused on my whole career. So this fight's obviously a huge thing. It's my first fight, and I live and die by the record. I have a pro, so it's a huge thing for me. But I'm not going to stop training after this fight. I'll obviously take a week off and rest and recover. Obviously if I have any niggles after fighting all that, I'll rest and recover. But I'll always be pressing forward, and that includes the diet as well. The diet won't stop after this fight.
Sounds like a good focus, man. Well done. And one thing I found that you're very good at, man, is getting your rest and recovery. You said you sleep on an average of 9 hours a night. That's pretty incredible, man. And it's very good for you when you're such an active person training so much. It's very important, obviously, rest. And if you're getting 9 hours a day, that's pretty incredible, right?
Yeah, like the big thing, like everyone always wants that magic pill for recovery. So you have like one of my sponsors is a recovery place where you go in and they have those Normatec boots, which like squeeze and push the blood flow through your legs, and they have like ice baths and they have jacuzzis and saunas. That's all well and good when you have your nutrition and your sleep on point and you have your water intake on point. There's no point doing all those things. Or I have a Sorite as well, which is like Michael Chandler is huge about them. It's like a foam roller. There's 2 points on it, and you stick it on your back, and it's great for releasing stress. But again, if you're not in charge of your sleep, your diet, and your water intake, those things are absolutely useless. Those are the 3 big things for recovery. You need to make sure your diet's good, you need to make sure your sleep is good, and you need to make sure your water intake is good. If they're not good, then there's no point doing all these other things or jumping into the water, like everyone says, seawater is great for like recovery and all that. That's great when you have your main things fixed first. There's no point looking for that magic pill that helps you recover. That magic pill is going to be nothing. You need to make sure your sleep is good, your diet is good, and your water is good. Yeah, I aim for 9, 10. Like 10 is kind of a push most nights, but 9 is good. Got 9 today now, and I can start feeling myself now. And I obviously, when I wake up, I'm groggy because obviously I had a sparring last night, so I got punched in the head a lot. I took a lot of overhands to the face, so brain was very fuzzy. But obviously, that's the feeling of that. I know I'm well rested, Joe. I know throughout the day now I'm going to get better, and then by night, then I'll be grand again.
That's good, man. Hey, I was just talking to Jordan Sullivan, the fight dietitian, the other day. I don't know if you heard of him. He's working with like Adesanya and Volkanovski and a few other guys from New Zealand, Australia. Actually, a lot of guys from New Zealand, Australia. And he was echoing the same sort of thing: your diet, rest, hydration. He also mentioned about the stress as well. So that's another thing he mentioned about dropping those stress levels. That you don't want your cortisol levels too high just from stressing yourself out. So do you do anything like that would help lower your stress levels as far as, I don't know, meditation, any of these sort of things? Is that part of your game?
I don't have the mental capacity for meditation. I get bored way too easily. I did another funny story. I did a float tank. Those I
know these things.
Yeah. So I did one of those, and it was supposed to be like an hour and 20 minutes. I did about 10, and I was bored. I was literally like playing with water and stuff and all that. I had to get out. I couldn't do it. For stress, for me, it's more just, again, it's back to the controllables and uncontrollables. So there's no point stressing about things I can't control. So if something happens throughout my day, no point putting negative energy into that if I can't control it. If I can, we'll work on it. We'll do it. Reading is a big thing for me. I have my whole bookshelf here. I'm a big nerd, so I like Star Wars, I like Harry Potter, I like Lord of the Rings. reading is kind of my thing to kind of calm myself down. I try not to watch MMA and be involved in MMA when I'm not in the gym. I try to pull that back. You can't be MMA 24/7. I can be MMA for my times where I'm training, but in between and then I need to be away from sport. I need to be kind of in my own times, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a good thing, man.
Away from it.
That's a good thing, man. So just wanted to jump onto one other question I had, which is obviously in the amateur levels. I'm not so sure about where you're at. Over in Australia, amateur and entry level pro, there's not much money in it. So, you know, you're doing a lot of these things. You're seeing you got nutritionalists, you got all these people helping. You've got a psychologist. You're training with the best of the best. How do you handle that, man? And financially and everything, it must be difficult at that point. Or you got some good sponsors, or how does it work?
I got some. I've got incredible sponsors, which the gym mama in our gym, SBG, she sorted everything for me. And her with MTK as a management company, I'll have plenty of sponsors. I'm lucky enough to have huge ones. Like I have a huge car dealership here in Cork called Mallow Motors in Cork. A cycling place, McCarthy Sports. I have a huge sponsor which came aboard a week ago, which you'll know very well. It's called Wim to Warrior. I'm one of their brand ambassadors, a global program. So they're a huge one as well. I'm lucky to have these sponsors looking after me. And then I have I have Ross Nutrition and Here's Health. They look after all my supplements and all that. Like, so all my protein, all my creatine, all my, vitamin D's and all that are sorted by them. So there's not much. My strength and conditioning is one of my sponsors too. So all those things are kind of a lot taken care of. But then again, MMA is a tough sport and it's very, very costly to start. Like if you're looking for brain scans, getting your physios, all that kind of stuff. It's costly. I work part-time in a bar as security. It's not the greatest job. I enjoy it. You deal with a lot of shit cunts trying to start fights and just about but it's grand. It pays the bills for a certain point where fighting will take over then.
And that's the next thing I wanted to talk about, because I heard you talking about security, and I'm a security guy as well. I kind of worked my way out from being in bars, etc. Now if I wouldn't last in a bar, I'll probably get killed or something. But yeah, you were saying before, it's a fun kind of job, right? Like when you're a young guy, you're there, you got your mates there, you're working together, you're having a laugh, you're having that fun height of incidents. You're talking about what happened. Oh, this happened and this happened. It's a mad job in a way. It's kind of fun, and it relates back to MMA, relates back especially to grappling and fighting. You can sometimes use your skills a bit. How do you find security, man?
So before COVID and like 2 years ago, I worked in a nightclub, and it was like, I was chucking fellas out, but in the 10s, 20s, like it was that kind of thing. And it was like, yeah, it's cool and all that. Right now, because of Ireland, we don't have bars anymore, really. That's all kind of sit-down dining, so it's like kind of that. I enjoy that way more. It means I don't have to judo flip and body lock fellas left, right, and center. It's more calm. It's more just talking. For me, obviously, if I'm training a full day of training, and then I go and work, body is sore, and if I was to throw someone, I could hurt myself, or someone could hit me and I could hit them back, and that could be in the paper the next morning, for me. So it's more now about working in those kind of bars where it's not really security and more like the place I am right now. I'm pretty much a maitre d'. So like I'll radio to, like, if someone comes up and there's a table of 4 people, I'll make sure there's a table of 4 people inside, that kind of stuff. That suits me more, because the days of chucking fellas out and strangling them and, sneaking their little elbows or knees in, to me, it's over, and it's more of a risk, definitely for my career. So
that's true.
The work I'm doing right now is way better. It's way easier.
That's funny you mentioned that, because that's exactly what I was doing when I was a young fella like you, man. That ended up in a job like that, and it's sweet, man. It's very rare you have anything. You might just be stopping people here and there, but you're just dealing with people, and it's a lot easier, right? Hey, you're a big fella, man, and I think you touched on it in one of the other interviews I listened to, but what I found, because I'm only a middleweight fighter, I find being a bit not so big, I didn't get as much aggression as my mates that are big. You do get guys just wanting to prove something, like pick you because you're bigger, or not?
Yeah, I always get those what we call it small dog syndrome. The little Jack Russells who always think they can take the big fella, and then when the big fella grabs them, they're like, "Oh shit, I fucked up." What I get, a very story. This fella, and he was giving me, I was on the door and I was with another big fella. So this fella made me look small. So he was like 6'7", like 140 kilos. Like I was small next to him, and he was one of my training partners too. So he knew exactly how to fight, and he knew exactly how how strong I was as well.
Yeah.
So we were standing there, whatever, and this little fella who was like giving me a load of shit, whatever, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna bait you, whatever." And I had one of my knockouts a week before, and a fella walks down the road and goes, "All right, Ryan, congrats on that knockout last week." And you just see the little fella then go drop, and he goes, "Oh, what have I got myself into?" And he just walks right down the road. And he's like, "I fucked up here." But yeah, like people are like for me, no, in the training martial arts, I know that anyone can be a danger, not just the big fellas, but I know you can get a little guy there who'll just catch you with a spinning hook kick and it's game over, you know, or he takes down, chokes out, you know, like anyone could be a danger. So obviously for me, training martial arts, I know that. But then you have the guys then that, you know, are just little scumbags who think that, like, you know, they got in a few street fights when they were younger, so they think they can take anyone. And this, like, fighting is very dangerous. So obviously, being me, I'm very mature in that kind of way where I don't want to be in fights. So I'd rather not be in fights. So when I'm working security, it's all about, you know, de-escalating the situation where I don't have to fight. I'm very lazy as well. I don't want to throw a fella to the floor and have to be sweating and then, you know, be knee riding him and just trying to control him and all that. Like, I'd rather the fight not take place. If he's going to throw 40 insults at me and walk away, that's better for me, you know. But yeah, definitely the little guys are always trying to take a crack.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said, man. Yeah, but you become, because you're a fighter, you become aware of the dangers, not only to yourself, but what you could do to them, and then what problems it can cause you from the law or whatever. So you try to steer clear of it. And I'll tell you, as you get older, man, if you're still in security later, as you get older, the less drama you want. You just want things to be relaxed. You want to go home relaxed. You don't want to deal with shit. So yeah, that's the way it goes. Man, you've given me heaps. I just want to ask you one more question. It's kind of a stupid one, kind of a stupid fight, but you know, the Jake Paul, Tyrone Woodley fight coming up. I just saw some things coming up on it. It's kind of interesting, man. It's obviously it's a bit of a travesty for guys like yourself that are working your ass off, and it's taking you years to get up there, and then guys can jump in like Jake Paul and make a lot of money. But nevertheless, it's interesting. What do you think will happen in that one?
I think Jake Paul and Logan Paul are absolute geniuses. I hate them with a passion. I actually like Logan a bit better. I think he's a bit cooler. He's done that weird stuff where he was caught like filming a fella hanging himself and all that. Like, but I like him more. Yeah. I think Jake is an absolute little shitbag. But what he's doing is fantastic. Yeah, he's picked fights with like huge UFC guys that have no striking. So he's beaten MMA fighters, but he's beaten MMA fighters with, like, he fought Ben Askren, who had no striking. Ben had nothing. Not even his MMA career. You can see Ben like doing spinning back fists and he's like swinging his arms and, you know, like. And Tyrone Woodley is a bit better than him, but still, Tyrone was known as a wrestler. You know, I couldn't, like, I predicted Ben to beat Jake. I was like, Ben's tougher. You know, he's been in tougher fights. You know, he's fought the toughest guys. Like, and then he got sparked up by Jake. I don't know whether it was a fix or, you know, was he just happy to take the money? I want to say Woodley beats Jake. But in this world, like, Logan Paul almost sparked out Mayweather. Like, he caught him there at one stage, and you were like, this man could knock out, you know, the greatest boxer on the planet. Yeah. These days, anything can happen. So I would love to say Woodley beats him, but then Jake come out there and knock him out again. Like, you know, it's just, you never know.
Hard to know. It's been strange. But I was just thinking about it. Really, he's been in with people that can't punch at all. So Askren, no matter how much you like him for his game and what he's done in the past, you look at those clips and you just think, how can you win a boxing fight when you can't even fucking punch, you know? So, but this guy can punch. So let's hope that this will be the first time he gets some pressure. At a minimum, get some pressure, maybe dragged into later rounds, and you might see him whole different person then, yeah.
Oh, definitely. He needs it. He needs a good baiting.
That's it, man. All right, man. Well, you've given me heaps of everything I wanted to know. I kind of know now, and it gives us a good introduction to you as a fighter. And I'm looking forward, man, to seeing you fight and seeing you progress in your career. I hope that you are very successful and maybe a couple of fights down the track. I'd like to catch up with you again if that's okay, and to see how you're doing.
Definitely, man. I enjoyed this last. You know, you do certain interviews and there's not a flow, but there was a lovely flow here. So very happy.
Awesome, man. That's good, man. I appreciate your time, and we'll talk again in the future.
Definitely. Thank you.